The Strange Woman and the Kid. This is a true story of one of my friends. She told me not to disclose her name. Let's call her Lucy for the time being. She told me that this is a story of the time between 1998 and 97, when she was about only 9 years old. She told me that she actually grew up in a village and her relatives lived in the village next to theirs. It was one of her cousin's wedding and of course she was invited. They decided to go to the relative's home a day earlier than the wedding because they had to do some dance practice for the dance. As she was a little kid, she was very excited about the wedding. All of the brothers and sisters asked their mother eagerly if they could go. Their mother allowed them to go but advised that you should stay there if the function ends at night. They went to the function and enjoyed a lot, but unfortunately it ended at around 1 am. It was her brother's idea to go home instead of staying there, because there were a lot of people in the house and they were worried if they would be able to find a comfortable sleeping place there. In the end, they finally decided to come back home instead. At that time in the village, everybody used to walk as there were only like 2 cars in the whole village. On the way back, while crossing the peanut field, they heard a woman's voice calling them. They stopped and turned around to see a woman carrying a baby at that time. The baby was constantly crying. The woman came closer to them and told them that the baby was sick. The lady came closer to one of Lucy's eldest sisters and asked her if she could hold her baby. She asked her politely if she could put the baby inside her scarf because it was cold, and she told that the baby is ill. She also told them that she was going in the same direction as their home. She was taking the baby to the doctor. Her sister, being a kind heart that she was, took the baby and covered him with her scarf. After that, they continued with their journey home. After a while, they noticed that that sister was walking very slow, and by then she was quite far from them. That woman was with all of them, and the sister was not saying anything at all. Now Lucy's eldest brother told that lady to take the baby back from his sister. He also told her that they'll give her the scarf, because now they were getting scared of the woman. She answered, "No, now the baby will not come to me." While all of this was happening there, the sister, which was carrying the baby, shouted in great pain. She said, "Brother, please save me." At that moment, all of them turned around and took a look at their sister. That kid was pulling their sister backwards. He was just an infant, but had grown long arms, very long arms. One of Lucy's brothers pulled that sister towards them, and they all started running. When that woman and the kid saw them all running, the woman as well as the kid started screaming. The screams were unbearably loud. They all were running in terror but somehow managed to make it home. As soon as they got to the door, they started banging it. Their mother came to the door, but they all fell down just as the door opened. They asked their mother to just close the door. The Missing Bedsheet. This is a true story of my own sister. Let me tell you the story from her perspective. On a random day, I was in the washroom and someone knocked the door. I asked who it was, and I realized that it was my brother. When I came out of the washroom, my brother was sitting on the bed with his head straight down. I asked him, "What happened to you?" He did not answer. Instead, he just started laughing. I thought that he was just making a fool out of me, so I left him alone. Just as I turned around and went outside, I heard a sound. There was my mother and the same brother at the door with her. They were just coming inside the house. So I was very much shocked, and the only question that came to my mind was that if my brother is with my mother, who in the world was sitting on that bed and who knocked the door? When I looked back at the bed, there was no one there, and the bedsheet was also gone. The dead dog. My exams were on my head, so for the preparation I joined a tuition center. The tuition center was about 3 kilometers away from my home. I normally used to travel on my bike to the tuition center. On one normal night, at around 9:30 p.m., I was just coming back after my classes. Now, the location of my home is such that you have to cross an old highway in order to get back home. I was just on the way back home from the tuition center. I was just coming with the track line when suddenly I saw a woman on her knees. In front of her, there was a dead dog. I genuinely wanted to help her and wanted to ask her what was wrong, but I did not. I did not help her and went on with my journey home. Just as I started my motorbike, I heard some footsteps behind my back, and when I took a look, there was no one there. I started my motorbike and went on with the journey, but after some time, this happened once again. It felt like there were footsteps behind me, but just as I looked back, there was no one there. By this time, I was scared. There was dead silence on the way back. There were dense trees around me and no sound of anything. But I gave myself hope that this must be my imagination, and I started my way back and I tried to cover it as soon as possible. I started riding my bike faster, but I heard the footsteps once again, and louder this time. I finally stopped under a street light and took a look around when I heard a voice. What I heard shocked me to my core and I started shivering right away. You, my friend, are very lucky that you are under a street light now, or otherwise you'll be in the same condition as that dog. After that, I started to lose my mind and I started my motorbike right away. I rode as fast as I could, probably the fastest in my life. I have no idea how I covered 1 kilometer distance in 1 minute. Maybe it just felt like that. When I reached home, I was so scared that I was not able to speak properly, and my mother understood right away. I drank a glass of water and gave myself something to eat and calmed after a while. I might never be able to forget this experience, even if I want to.